Okay. I know everybody has been addressing this issue between Jim Jones and Nas, right? Realistically, it's an issue between Jim Jones and everybody else. Now, I understand where Jim Jones is coming from in terms of what he's doing. Obviously, he's trolling. He admitted to himself that he doesn't honestly think he's better than Nas or even more relevant than Nas or anything like that, right? And I understand where Jim Jones is coming from because realistically, Jim Jones did get better as an MC, but the issue is that he's still far in between anybody that has any type of relevance right now. I'm talking about when you talk about the OGs like Nas, Jay Z, Keras One, Rakim. It doesn't matter who you call out, man. Any one of those dudes on the worst day is still better, 10 times better than Jim Jones, right? Now, Jim Jones, if you grade him according to where he was and where he is now, yes, absolutely. He's 100 times better. But that's also 100 times too late. You know what I mean? He's closing in on 50 years old. He should have been rapping like this back then. And he would have got a fair shot in terms of everybody respect him as an MC, but it's a little bit too late. A little bit too late, you know what I mean? So because of that, Jim Jones understands right now we're in the streaming world, we're in the marketing world, we're in the branding world, right? So he's going to concentrate on the brand. But if you want to concentrate on your brand, there's a difference between making a fool of yourself. And that's not no disrespect towards Jim Jones, but I just can't find any words better than that, right? So get that stinking bug out of here. Now, that's no disrespect to Jim Jones because Jim Jones is talented, but it just happens to be rapping was not one of those things. He did everything else 10 times better. Rapping, he could get by, but when it comes to video directing, when it comes to strategic planning, when it comes to, and this is what I believe his best asset is, which is clothing. You know what I mean? Like Kanye, just the other day, he paired up with Jim Jones to do some clothing thing, right? And Jim Jones, I don't know what happened, but I believe Kanye was talking about Jim Jones just took his money and, never gave him the styles or never gave him whatever he was supposed to give him, which was inspiration. And but the hardest thing is right now, right? So Kanye is a clothing mogul, and for him to go to Jim Jones for inspiration or advice, that goes to show you how well Jim Jones understands the fashion world. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't never seen nobody rock that chain, the jeans with a chain, you know what I mean? That biker stuff and make it hip hop, you know what I mean? Like, he was rocking stuff like that. He was rocking boots. He was rocking, I believe, True Religion jeans. Jim Jones had his own thing when it came to style. And he should continue in that realm because that's where his talent is, right? But when he's in the realm of where he's not an elite rapper or not even close to, you have to do some reckless things in terms of attacking, one of our legends, man. One of our like ambassadors to hip hop, like Nas right now. Like, the whole world attacks hip hop. So when you got somebody like Nas at the forefront, Rakim, even Jay, I mean, when you got individuals like that, Jada, holding down the fort at 50 years old or even up, you gotta give those dudes their flowers. Those are not the dudes you tear down. If Jim Jones went after anybody else, even Pusha T was a little pushing it, but that was more realistic in terms of if Jim Jones is going to try to say I'm better than this guy, right? So Pusha T should have been your target market, and you should have stuck with that. You know what I mean? People within that realm or a little bit lower. But when you start talking about the legends, when you're talking about these dudes that held hip hop down when the whole world trying to make hip hop into a disgusting form of influence, these dudes held it down. Nas, like I said, he held it down. So you gotta show homage, and yeah, you're joking, you're trolling, and this is the internet, but you don't do that, man. You don't do that. You know what I mean? You don't make references to degrade. Like, when you degrade Nas, you degrade hip hop. You know what I mean? When you degrade Karis One, when you degrade Coogee Rap, you know what I mean? Slick Rick. When you would try to come at these dudes for clout or for clickbait, you're degrading hip hop, the one thing that saved your life. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I want to respectfully tell Jim Jones, you know what I mean? Just chill, dude. Like you're dope when it comes to fashion. You know what I mean? If you want to say you had a better fashion imprint in this world than Nas, oh, that's a great argument. You know what I mean? Even anybody else you say, right? Like Jim Jones did make his mark when it came to this fashion thing. So stick with that, man. Stick with your talent. You got a lot of talent. You know, you got all this clout and all this attention when you said what you said, which was crazy. But you chose to sell the wrong product with all that attention. You chose to sell your record, your album that was coming out, and it was okay, but it's not happening. You know what I mean? If you would have put a clothing line behind that promotion, um, behind that behind whatever you were trying to do, you would have sold, man. You would have sold some stuff. You would have sold sneakers. You would have sold jeans. You would have sold t-shirts. You would have sold it because it was believable. But even if your album was dope and nice, the fact that you disrespect a legend just out of respect alone, ain't nobody gonna mess with that. Ain't nobody gonna mess with that. Ain't nobody gonna buy it just because of the disrespect you chose to do. You know what I mean? The younger kids that don't know, what Nas has put into this game, they got the OGs, they got the parents to tell them. And so it's like, Jim, like concentrate on what you're good at, man. You know what? You're even a good talker. Why don't you just open up a podcast like Fat Joe and Jada? I guarantee you're gonna have 1 million viewers talking your talk and literally just giving people your opinion. You know, you're very charismatic. You're very like people listen to you when you talk, whether it be good or bad. So do that, man. The podcast game is kind of nice right now. You know what I mean? It pays a lot more than rapping. So do that. You know what I mean? Like don't disrespect the people that kept you alive when you were in the hood, money. Don't. That's disrespect.